Hi fellow bibliophiles and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa and this is my May reading wrap-up. So May was a pretty good month reading-wise and otherwise. I graduated from dental school, which I am still in shock about. I moved to New York in with my boyfriend, which I'm also still in shock about, and I have a new bookshelf, which is right behind me and is completely not ready and not organized yet. It doesn't even have nearly any of my books on it yet, so that is something that I will have to do in the near future, and I'm actually really excited for it. So you can expect a video on arranging my bookshelf very soon. So on to the books that I've read in the month of May. The first three were all part of Novellathon with Katherine from the Book Rookie. I had such a great time with her doing the Novellathon, and thank you guys to all of you who joined us. And yeah, so for those of you who don't know or want to hear more about the next three books, you should check the link up above for my little Novellathon vlog. But I read Margaret by Danielle Dutton, The Driver's Seat by Muriel and The Pearl by John Steinbeck. So again, you should check that out. I'll link it there somewhere, however I do that. And yes, it went really well. So another book that I started during Novellathon but did not finish then was We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. So I did finish reading this book this month and I absolutely loved it. So at first it was just a weird and quirky book, but then it became apparent that it was sort of a crime novel and there was a whodunit plot twist, which I somehow actually guessed, which is insane because I never guess plot twists in anything, TV shows, movies, books, none of them. So it was kind of fun that I actually got it. But it is such a dark, strange, and enticing book. I really, really enjoyed Shirley Jackson's writing, and I look forward to picking up something else by her in the near future. The next book I read was actually a poetry collection called The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace, and it is divided into four parts: the princess, the damsel, the queen, and you. And it's a narrative about trauma, inspiration, loss, love, and empowerment. And I could tell that this is a very personal collection for the author. However, I didn't personally resonate with all of it. And I don't know if this poetry collection originated on Tumblr or if I just see many poems on it from Tumblr, but it's that type of really accessible poetry that, you know, sometimes works for me and sometimes doesn't. It's very, very similar actually to Ruby Kaur's Milk and Honey, and I didn't love that collection, to be perfectly honest. I did like this one a little more, but I think if you like Ruby Kaur's Milk and Honey, you would love this collection. The second poetry collection I read in May was Bodies by Vanessa Roveto. It's a super underrated collection of prose poetry. It's the author's first collection of poetry, in fact, and it only has 14 ratings on Goodreads. So I picked it up by chance in the library. They had like a featured poetry section that I just discovered right before I moved, and it is just such interesting and unique poetry. It's about dysfunctional and dysmorphic bodies and how inanimate objects blend with the perceptions of our own bodies. Each paragraph is chock full of language, and there's just so much to unpack. It's truly overwhelming. They're so interesting when you read these poems. They deal with mundane things in a sort of aggressive and very sexualized, disturbing way. I don't really know a better way to explain it. I'm going to read you one to help you understand what I mean, because as I said, I can talk about this collection all I want, but I don't think it would make much sense unless you hear a little sampling. It kind of has strong language, just so you're aware. The jeggings fucked her fiercely at the food court. The thighs firmed as the seams made their way into the build-your-own-corpse salad, up the eyes of the security camera. I wear my buckle to the side so that no one looks at my crotch, she chained to me. I looked at her crotch. The mannequin sitting inside me set herself on fire, and I watched it all happen from behind the cash register. She didn't want to think about his face, his beating bush, his boyfriend jeans, or his kidney. The one and only one. Across the cry, a mall burrito unraveled itself, spilling the rice, the fake arm, the history of entertaining someone else's aesthetic project. So maybe you see what I mean by it takes inanimate objects and mundane situations such as the mall in this case, and the burrito and a mannequin and a security guard, and it brings them to life in a really strange and kind of violent way. The rhythm is astounding, and it almost sounds like gibberish until you really think about it and start unpacking it. And yeah, I understand that these kinds of poems probably aren't for everyone, but I think that they are a really interesting look at the English language, and they just do so much. So I highly recommend this collection if you liked that little snippet of a poem. So this month I also read Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. It's about Lincoln's son's death and existence in Bardo, which is Tibetan for a kind of limbo or intermediate existence where the consciousness is not connected to the body. And it deals with themes of death and grief and religion, and is ultimately an exploration of deeper meaning of life. And I'm not going to lie, this book definitely gave me a bit of an existential crisis. Its narrative structure was also really strange to me, though. It was almost reading a play, but you never knew who was speaking until you got to the end of what they had to say. So that kind of drove me crazy for a really long time and became confusing. I had to go back and reread things sometimes. So it took a lot of patience to get into for me personally, and to get through, but it's definitely worth it for so many reasons. It features strong characters, each with their own backstories, and it just got me thinking about so many different things, everything from, religion to, of course, our own mortality, and yeah, as I said, I really did have an existential crisis for like a day and a half afterwards until I somehow shut that part of my brain off. So yeah, it's definitely a book that I recommend. I don't want to say too much more about it because I think I'll actually turn you off from reading it and instead of turning you on to reading it, which doesn't make sense because I did enjoy it immensely and I gave it 4 stars for what that's worth. And the last, and for me, most exciting book that I finished in the month of May was North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Finally! Oh my goodness, I love this book. I don't even know where I can begin. Have you read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen? So, yeah, if the answer is no, go read it. I don't know why you haven't. Just go read it. Forget about the rest of my video. Don't worry about it. Just go read Pride and Prejudice now. But if you already have read Pride and Prejudice and you did like it, you gotta read this. You're gonna love it. If you like Victorian literature, social commentary, just pick up Gaskell's work. I don't know why it took me so long to do so, but I can't believe I haven't read her sooner. As Katie from Books and Things told me, it's like Pride and Prejudice with factories. Margaret Hale's family leaves their home in the south of England and moves to Milton, a town in the north of England that's actually based on Manchester. And it's just about their life there and their views of society, how they adapt to their new environment, and how they interact with some really delightful characters. I love how it toys with the traditional Victorian marriage plot novel, and it's a fascinating look at class as well. Is class truly a meritocracy in Victorian England? Do those of a higher class have a paternalistic responsibility to take care of the working class? And, I mean, looking at where Mr. Thornton fits into the hierarchy is also particularly interesting because, on the one hand, he's wealthy and well-respected, and in the north, in the industrial land of Milton there. But, on the other hand, he is uneducated and has worked his way up from the bottom. It also explores unions and strikes and mob mentality in the workplace. Are unions just as tyrannical as masters in their own way? And then I also thought that it was interesting to compare the employee and employer relationship with the concept of Victorian husband and wife marriages. That's something that I think the ending sort of encourages you to do, and I love this book. I've already had so many long conversations about it, and I actually haven't watched Katie from Books and Things' video on it yet because it also features Hard Times, which I have yet to read and have on my shelf back here somewhere. I can't find it right now. But I will definitely be reading it soon and then watching her video. I will also be watching the BBC 4-hour adaptation of North and South, which I have yet to do, but I'm really excited for that one. So those are all the books I finished in the month of May. There are other books that are in the works right now. I am so close to finishing Barchester Towers on audiobook. I'm about 3 hours away from finishing that, so I just need to sit down with the audio and listen to it, maybe take a nice long drive somewhere, and just finish Barchester Towers, which I'm really excited to do. And then I also started The Vegetarian by Han Kang. So those are all the books that I finished in their entirety in the month of May, but I have some other books in the works right now. I am this close to finishing the Barchester Towers audiobook. I have 3 hours left, so I will be doing that very soon. I also started and have almost finished, I think I have 20 pages left, in The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Yes, and I also started The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. I'm halfway through right now, so I think I will leave talking about this until I'm done with it. So that is it. This was a very exciting reading month for me, I believe. I would love to hear in the comments down below if you guys have read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books. I'd love to have a discussion on them with you. So anything I mentioned, I'd be happy to talk about in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in another video soon. But until then, happy reading.